Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans, a place where you go when you want a slightly different flavor of sim entertainment. Around here we don't do reviews, we don't do tutorials, and we don't discuss the latest sim news much unless it just happens to be on my mind. All we're interested in is exploring the coolest, most interesting, and or best looking places on Earth. And I think we might be able to check every one of those boxes on today's flight. We are back in South America, in Peru, in the Andes, which you can see right behind us there, and I have found an incredible bit of landscape for us to check out. We are leaving from Rodriguez Balon International Airport in the city of Arequipa, though we are right along the western base of the Andes. We are still starting out at over 8,000 feet of elevation, and we're only about 50 miles from the coast, so that tells you just how quickly the landscape climbs out here. After we get in the air, we're going to take a lap around the city. I'll tell you a little bit about it, then head west along the range until we hit an opening in the mountains. Then we'll fly north through some canyons and into some of the most spectacular landscape on the planet. In fact, you might even wonder if we're still on the planet because it truly looks otherworldly. Some of the best I've seen in the sim, at least as far as interesting and different. It's just, and it looks great too. It's just amazing. And then we're going to wrap things up by dropping down into the mountaintop mining district of Orcopampa, which is going to be awesome. And I got to tell you guys, this is such a unique flight that I am tempted to give it our coveted must-fly label. Not only does it look amazing as far as the landscape, but just graphically phenomenal. It is the Andes, and those always look amazing. So I think I may do it. You guys can let me know what you think, but it's going to be a pretty cool flight. And we're going to be taking off, again, I mentioned at about 8,000 feet. So if you want to take this flight yourself, of course, the exact flight plan will be included in the video description as always, so you can load it into a little NavMap, then load it into the sim. Just be mindful of that altitude. We're going to be landing at around almost 13,000 and cruising at 16,000 for a while once we get up in the mountains, and you could easily get up over 20,000 if you want to check out some of the peaks up there. So just bear that in mind. And I've been telling you I was going to do it. Look what we're flying. It's the F-35. And I mentioned in that last video, I think I said the F-35 Raptor. That's actually the F-22. This one is the Lightning. And this plane has been a bit of a bugger for me because, hold on, let me just get all this stuff squared away and get it started up here, and then I'll tell you a little bit about why we're flying this plane and how I intend on flying it. Okay, battery on, this stuff on. So I got this thing because of this is the B variant of it. It comes with 3 different variants, and this is the one that does the vertical takeoff, and I just thought that was too cool to pass up, so I had to get it. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the modern fighter jets. Don't have a lot of them, but this is so unique. And just the way that it flies and the way that you operate it, pretty much every button. You can see there's not many buttons in this cockpit. Everything's on this display screen here. So it's pretty cool, but I watched a few reviews, and there aren't a lot of them out there. I was shocked. So I'm going to do the best I can to fly this thing, and if you guys know how to fly it better, if I'm doing anything wrong, I'll tell you a few of the sticking spots I'll hit as we go through it. And if anyone is looking at this as a review or a tutorial, you know, mindfully, I'm not the best person at flying this, but I'll tell you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it in case you want to try to use this as just kind of get up and go type thing. But if you have any tidbits or pointers that could help me out along the way, please feel free to let me know, because there are some spots that I'm still kind of struggling with. Despite reading the manual and watching the reviews, it was still kind of difficult. Okay, so once you get the battery on and the IPPs on, then you can just hit the little starter there. And to get this screen to the main kind of format that you'll probably want to use, just hit menu and then hit cruise. It'll get this one going, and then these are going to pop up over here, and then you can hit it again to reset. But we need to get this going because we're going to turn the main engine switch on when that gets to about 23 on the N2. And we'll go ahead and shut the cockpit, shut the canopy, because it's going to get loud. And then you'll need this up also for your autopilot and also the hover capability when you get to that. Okay, we're almost at 23, so we can probably go ahead and hit that now. Come on, move on up there. And that gets the engines really going. Okay, so one thing you want to be mindful of, I could not figure out why I couldn't get it to hover for a while. You need to make sure your gross weight, which is right here, is under 40. And you can see we're real close. We're at 93.3, so we'll be good to go. If when you hit the hover thing, you hit this button first, we'll go through all that, but a little hover thing will come up over here. That's what you'll click to start hovering, and if it's red, chances are your gross weight is too high. So that's going to be the issue with that. And here's one feature I just love about this plane. Check this out. We get legs, and if you click it again, it'll give you a head, but then it looks like you're sitting inside the head, so they actually made it without a head so that that doesn't happen. But watch. You click it again, and you lean back and you get the head. So we'll turn that off and get our legs back on because it looks cool, and we got arms and everything. It's just great. Alright, I don't see my heads-up display, so the next thing we want to do is turn that on, and since it's day, we'll just click it to auto, and this is looking a little dim, so we'll click that today, and we're good to go with that. Okay, so I think everything's good. So you want to probably, if you want to see where you're flying, if you actually have a plan loaded in the sim, you can hit nav, go down to TSD1, not sure what that means, and hit map, and there's our plan. Since it's going to take a little time to go from hovering to flight, I'm actually going to fly out away from the airport a little bit, come back around here, and then try to catch back up with our flight that we've got laid out right around here. So I'm going to leave the autopilot off for a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and set our cruise altitude. So you just hit AP up there for autopilot. Click the altitude section, and we'll start at 13,000 feet because there's a big mountain that we got to try to clear. I'm going to go ahead and hit altitude hold. And when you're ready for it to start tracking your route, you'll hit route hold. Alright, so just kind of bear that in mind. We've got to get off this screen for a minute because we got to get back to the hovering screen. So we'll click off of that. So when I click this button, which is also the same button you would use if you wanted to do an auto takeoff, like from an aircraft carrier or an amphibious carrier, I guess that's what that's called. I do have the amphibious landing pack, so I might try one of those at some point too. We're going to hit this. It's going to put a little hover button up over here, and then it'll tilt the nozzles back a little bit, and then we'll click it. Well, you'll see what we're going to do. So let me just get myself situated here with my feet on the rudder pedals, because that's how we're going to turn left and right. Go ahead and hit that. And we're going to hit hover. You'll see the nozzles go down. Take the parking brake off. And you'll just pull back on your stick and start coming up. And you want to make sure you have a good bit of altitude, because when the nozzles shift backwards a little bit, it's going to lose some altitude. So we'll turn this way just a little bit with our rudders. And that's about the right direction we want to be pointing in. I do have the live weather on, not too windy and a beautiful day, so we'll enjoy that. In this airport, by the way, that we're leaving from, I'll tell you about it in just a second. There is an add-on for it, which looks really good. It's at flightsim.to, and it's on sale. I think it was like 50% off. And it wasn't on sale at Sim Market, so I'll tell you where we are in just a minute if you want to check that out, if you feel like you're going to be flying out here, and you may want to once you see this place. Okay, so now we want to start going forward. Let's make sure we're going to have enough throttle so it just doesn't dump our thrust. We'll click hover once. It'll move the nozzles back a little bit. And get our gears up. And when I click this again, it'll go into regular flight mode, and it's probably going to do a hard nose up. And sometimes hitting trim reset will take care of that, but we'll just see if it does it this time. Alright, we're going to hit it. Turn that off. And there we go, so you just nose down a little bit, and we caught it. Alright. So now we're done with this screen. I'm going to put the autopilot back on, get our altitude hold back on, and we're not going to hit the route hold until we come back around here. And yes, as usual, I have plenty of things to tell you about this area, but I'm just trying to walk you and myself through getting this thing squared away. So we're going to take a pretty sharp turn, and this thing will get going real fast, real quick, so I'm going to pull the throttle back a little bit. And you can already see the landscape down there. I do have the Orbix South America mesh pack installed. I've had it forever because I like flying out here so much. But even if you don't have that, it's still going to look amazing. So if it adds any clarity, just because I'm kind of a snob about fidelity, you probably wouldn't notice that much of a difference unless you were really, really looking. And there are some what I call photographic shadows out here, which are shadows along some of these ridges that will not move no matter what you do with the sun. So right now it's December, if you're watching this video much, much later, and I've got the time of day set to 2:30. If you do the same thing, the shadows will not jump out at you as being out of place. So the sun will be in the right spot even for the photographic shadows. Alright, if you want to watch your G's, here's where your G's are indicated over here. Here's your radar altimeter right here if you want to see just how high you are above the ground. And this thing is fully fly-by-wire, so you just get pointed in the right direction, let it go, and it should stay about where you left it. I'm trying not to climb too much because we're almost at 13,000, though it'll come back down to where we want to be once we engage everything. But look at this. It's a little bit rolling out here, but once we get up in these mountains, it is going to be mind-blowing. Really cool. The only thing comparable to this that I think we've flown over so far that I'm even aware of, maybe out in Indonesia with some of those volcanoes, but it's not as mountainous out there, or that Guatemala flight, which had tons of huge volcanoes that we did way back in the day, but it didn't have all the mountains and valleys on that one either. So this one is really in a league of its own. Never mind the incredible fidelity of the graphics. Just look at that down there. Look how detailed that is. Amazing. I'm going to pull the throttle back even more, because we're going to take a big, big looping turn here. Give ourselves some more G's. I got my G suit on, it's okay. And when you're turning like this, you really don't get the sense that you're going up at 5,000 feet a minute, but that's what we were doing. Okay, so we're kind of getting lined up on our course here. Once I get that squared away, I'll start telling you about some of this stuff that we're seeing here. Alright, so I don't know if we're too far away for our root hold, but I'm going to go ahead and kick it on and just see what happens as we get closer. I may have to reset it. And even when you're watching the reviews, everyone says that the autopilot is very finicky in here, so we may have to turn it on, turn it off a few times. And you can see it's trying to get back down to 13,000 feet, so that's good. Hopefully it'll stop there. Yeah, we're not. It's still letting me turn, so we're not quite lined up yet. I'll have to turn the root hold off and on again. No problem. Alright, so this big, huge mountain up here, as if it would be possible to miss that, is called Volcan Misty. And she tops out at about 19,000 feet. And even though it's dormant, I'm just watching my altitude here, making sure it's coming down the vertical speed, which it is. We're good. Even though it's dormant, it's not extinct. And its proximity to the city here, you can see how close that thing is, makes it one of the most dangerous volcanoes on the planet. It's about 6 miles from the farthest sprawl of the city here, which keeps creeping up this mountain because, as you can imagine, that's probably where the high-end real estate is. People want a good view of that mountain out their back window. All right, I'm going to turn the root hold off and on. There we go. Now it's locked on. But over here, there's a bunch of farmland and stuff that goes right up to the side of it, like within a mile of it. So if you had a pyroclastic flow that went the wrong direction, you would be in serious trouble. So I guess everyone's just hoping that's not going to happen. The last big eruption they had out here was around the mid-1400s, which was pre-Columbian, so there were no Spaniards out here yet. But the locals that were out here, which were the Incas, did their very best to calm her belly by making so many human sacrifices that the amount of mummies that they've found on her slopes constitutes the largest collection of Inca sacrifices they've ever discovered. And it must have worked, because it hasn't blown up again since then, so good on you. That's what you call forward thinking. We should all be very grateful. And it's kind of interesting to me that they... I mean, it must have been a big ritual, because they didn't just throw the bodies up there. They actually wrapped them up and mummified them. Which I don't think they did like the Egyptian-style embalming. I think it's just so dry out here that it naturally mummifies things. Alright, as we come around here, we're getting another look at the city of Arequipa, which is where we left from. The second largest in Peru by population. So let's just take a look at this. And you remember Sao Paulo or Sucre up in Bolivia? That is the second largest city in Peru down there, after Lima, of course. And it's a big industrial city now. I think their main export is textiles and things like that. A lot of manufacturing goes on down there. But not a really big place, is it? And when the Incas came out here, it's not like someone just came out here and said, hey, here's a great spot in the middle of the desert. The Incan ruler at the time, when the first people came out here, sent them out here as a forced resettlement because he wanted to have people out on the fringes of the empire. And the original Incan word for this place is Arequipa, which means let's stay here. So I guess it does what it says on the tin. Little PR to get people to feel good about being all the way out here. And there's been Incan habitation, not just in this place, but all up through these mountains and everything. Little villages and stuff they found ruins for. Very cool. Alright, we could probably actually come down to, let's see, I can barely see what that says. 34,000 feet above the deck. So once we come over this little area here, we'll come down a little bit to get a better look at everything, but we got to clear these little hills first. Let me give it a little more throttle. But the detailing, the fidelity, unbelievable. Just like most of the Andes. Until you get down to southern Chile, it all looks like this. Absolutely love flying out here. And one thing you'll notice is that up in the mountains, one, there will be hardly any popping. But the mountain ridges look like genuine mountain ridges. They're sharp where they should be sharp. None of that dome-shaped, rounded-off stuff. All of it looks hyper-realistic. Very, very cool. Alright, this big thing out here, this giant hole in the ground that we're going to see right up here, is called the Cerro Verde Mine, which I think means Green Mountain. And it's a copper mine, which is probably why they call it Green Mountain, because you're going to see they got a little runoff lake over here that is really green. And this is the largest copper mine in Peru, and the biggest copper producer in Peru, at least according to Wikipedia. And it's deep. And this is one of those shadows that won't move no matter how much you move the sun. So again, if you want that to look natural, you can see the way the sun's shining. If I hadn't pointed it out, you probably wouldn't think anything of it. But it is a deep hole. And you really can't tell just how deep it is till you can get out here and see some relief, because on a little NavMap, it looks like it's pretty much flat. But look at all that. And this lake here, it even looks like it's got some depth to it. All the water lines look fantastic. Look at that. Looks like you could hop right in there. Amazing. We're getting a little popping here, but that's only because I had to turn the terrain level of detail down a bit because this thing is a big performance hog, because it's all glass and a pretty complicated plane. And this thing can do all kinds of stuff. It's really unbelievable what you can do with it. We're just doing the basics to take our little sightseeing tour today. Alright, this next town we're going to fly across is called La Jolla. And I don't have to tell you, it's a little bit dry out here. On average, they get a bit less than 4 inches of rain a year. I think I read it was about 3.8 inches of rain annually on average. So that is not a lot. In fact, the only green spots that you're going to see, as you can see up here running down this little thing, is along the very, very small rivers and streams and creeks that they've got going through here. But La Jolla here is still pretty wet behind the ears compared to Arequipa. This place was only founded in 1935, which is when they built a bunch of irrigation canals along a couple of the little rivers they've got down there. And right here is a place called Vitor Airport, which is the last one of those we're going to see till we get to our landing spot. And that's a joint-use military and civilian place. And out there you can see the Pacific Ocean. So that's how close we are to the coast, and already at 8,000 feet where we took off from. But just the coloration, the little striations and the rivulets, and the wait till you see some of the little channels that are carved in the mountains from the runoff when we get up there. Just unbelievable. Looks so good. Alright, let's see if we can get up over 500 knots, which I know we can. And we're going to do it. Alright, so I'm going to come down to 6,000 feet for a while now. Now let's do 8,000. I don't want to have to climb too fast once we get out there. What an incredible area. If you guys know of any place that looks as cool as this is going to look when we get up in the mountains, please don't keep it a secret. Anything that's even remotely comparable to this, I want to take a flight out there because this thing is really in a league of its own. Alright, this next population center we're going to cross is called the Mejas District, and this one has really got me stumped. People didn't start moving out here until 1981, which is when they somehow managed to get enough water out of their tiny little river to support the farms surrounding it. This is going to be up in here. And I mean, that river is tiny. I couldn't even get it to register on the measurement tool in little NavMap, so I would guess it's probably 20 feet across at the widest point, and most of it appears to be dried up. But what's crazy is we're going to see a little pocket of really dense population on this side of town, and then when we fly over that area and some farms, there's going to be this huge expanse of houses with these enormous walled-off yards. And they're not farms. In fact, there's nothing but dirt inside all the fences, so I don't know what's up with all that. Look how fast we're going. Look where we're at 72%, 73% on the throttle. Going 534 knots of airspeed. And I'd go even faster if I didn't want to take a gigantic turn up here. But in 2020, some of the locals found a bunch of dinosaur tracks in this town, which added at least one reason for tourists to drop by. And they built a big complex over where the dinosaur tracks are, so I'll show you that when we fly over. Yeah, you can see just a little bit of popping, but again, if I turned our terrain level of detail up, I think I've got it at 210 right now, which is pretty close to my floor. I bet we wouldn't even see any of that. Alright, so the dinosaur place, which I'm only pointing out because it's an interesting little spot, is going to be right up here in this little strip of population. There's a little square of green that's right in the middle of it. And then I'll show you these houses up here. Man, we're cooking right now. That's it right there. And if you look on Google Maps, which has a little bit better resolution than little NavMap, you can even see the dinosaur statues. Alright, so check out all these properties out here. It kind of reminds me of like Afghanistan or Pakistan, where they have all those like adobe walls around all the houses. Look at that. That's a lot of space for people to be living. But there's a lot of space out here. They must be growing some tulips or maybe a cranberry bog down there. I wonder what that is. Alright, we're coming into our valley now, so I want to keep a close eye on our altitude. Once we get headed north here, we're going to cut right in through this little thing right here, and the real cool stuff is going to start. And along the floor of this valley, as you'll see in just a second, we're going to spot all kinds of little towns and farms. And it's really green compared to some of these other spots, but they got a pretty good-sized river running down here because this one runs all the way up near... Well, some of the tributaries go up by that mountain up there, which I'll tell you about in a second, so they must get some meltwater in this place. I don't know where the others are getting their water from. That's a big mountain, isn't it? Look at that thing. Just phenomenal. Looks so good. And you know what else is interesting? Of course, all these towns have a soccer field, or if not a soccer stadium, but once we get up in the mountains, every town, and I mean every town, no matter how small it is, has a bullfighting arena. And none of them down here do. So that must be a mountain culture thing up there. I'll show you some spots when we're done. I mean, there could be 12 houses there, and nothing for miles around, and they got a bullfighting arena. I guess if you don't have the internet, that's what you do. Look at this detailing down here. I mean, that is as good as I've seen it anywhere in the sim. And there's other spots that look like that. But to see that, and then what we're going to see up here in a little bit, wow. Just wow. And you guys know I'm not a huge fan of the modern fighter jets, and I'm trying to figure out why, because they're a lot of fun. But I think because of what we're doing on this channel, I like to be able to have a little lead time in my thinking, because I've got to think about, one, navigating and flying, but two, looking on the ground and keeping track of my notes and my bookmarks. And because everything happens so fast in these fighter planes, it makes it a little more stressful, which I like because it's fun. There's a soccer stadium. But when we fly the GA planes, or slower jets anyway, it's a little bit easier. And of course, when you're flying liners, which I love to do, you're not flying down by terrain, so you don't need to worry about that. But if we're going to fly these things, we need to be down in the valleys. All right, so speaking of that, let's go ahead and pick it up to 12,000. I'm going to go to 13,000 feet. We're going to need to get up to 16,000 before we're done. So that big white mountain over there to our left is called Coropuna. And that baby reaches up to nearly 21,000 feet, making it the third tallest peak in all of Peru. And that one obviously still has some water on it, and I think there's even a few glaciers, which explains why the river flows so well down here. And we'll also see some vegetation up here along some of these mountain slopes, which is actually going to look a little bit out of place for the rest of this terrain, but it really is a bit greener up here. So I don't know if some of the weather gets up here and dumps a little bit more water out or what, but closer to the ice caps up there, it does get a bit greener. You can even see some of it on these mountains up here. Look at this area down here. Look at those little water canyons. Fantastic. Nice sharp edges on all the mountains. Beautiful. But Coropuna over there is a dormant volcano, with the last eruption estimated to be around 1,000 years ago. But they do have several active hot springs up there, which I think are a big destination for hikers. And it was also a big religious site for the Incas, and they found quite a few sacrificed bodies up there too. And scientists say that the ice cap up there started shrinking around 1850, and it's projected to be completely dried up on all these mountains by around 2120, which they fear, probably justifiably, is going to create a massive water problem out here, because they don't get much other water from rain, at least. So I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe dig some really, really deep wells. Alright, slowing down a little bit, and I'm going to take us all the way to 16,000 now, because we're going to need it. Alright, this thing up here is called the Canyon del Colca, considered one of the 10 most beautiful in the world, and also one of the deepest in the world at roughly 6,600 feet from top to bottom in the steepest parts. But some spot in China claims to be the deepest, but that might just be communist propaganda, because the numbers I saw would have put the one in China about 600 feet shallower than this one. So we'll give the crown to this one until someone can prove me otherwise. Those guys are always trying to ruin the party for everyone. And I also read this is the third most visited tourist spot in Peru. And I'm going to wager a guess that Machu Picchu probably claims the top spot in that category. Alright, you guys ready for something really spectacular? This next area to our left, which we're going to track down here in just a minute, is called the Aldagua Volcano Field, aka Valley of the Volcanoes, and you'll see why in just a minute. So just to frame how extraordinary this scene is, we're flying at, well, we're on our way up to 16,000 right now, and the deck's about 9,000 feet below us, so we're probably up around 10,000, 12,000 feet once we get up there. Way, way up here in the mountains, probably very hard to get up here. I don't see a lot of roads going up here, at least not significant roads. But in just a second, we're going to see a little lake over here to the right called Lake Chacas. And there's two, well, they look big considering where they are, towns up there, tucked right into the lake, and they're all green. They got farms all around them, terraced all the way up the side of that mountain. And, of course, they got their bullfighting rings. But wait till you see this. And the town on the north side of it's called Chacas, and it's the bigger of the two. And that place was founded in 1570. Think about that. 1570. I'm sure they probably kicked some Incas out when they came up here. And all throughout here, once we get up here, you're going to see all kinds of little volcanic peaks, little cinder cones that are up here. And judging by all these lava flows running down here, I'm going to guess those are the effusive type of volcanoes that just kind of splutter out lava. You know, they don't have big blasts. There's one of them right there. We'll see a lot more as we come in. And then it just kind of runs off down here. And the last eruption of any of these little guys was around 300 years ago, but they are still active. Alright, get a load of this thing in just a second. It's going to be right down here. I can't even imagine how incredible that would look from the ground. And the airport we're coming into, I guess, if you wanted to fly out here, would get you there, but it's way around the corner of this thing, so even that wouldn't be a real easy hike. Look at this. Insane. Alright, check this out. So there's the one little town. That's the bigger of the two right up in there. And at the end, I'll show you on the end all the little terraced farms and stuff they got going down the side of this thing. And it's all green up in here. Just looks unbelievable. There's the biggest volcanic peak around here. And you'll see lots of little ones here in just a little bit. But I wonder what elevation that is there. And I'd really like to know how far it is from there up until like here maybe. You know, you can't really tell the terracing. At the end of the little nav map I'll show you, it is super terraced. Everything going all the way up the sides. Look at all these volcanic craters here. Unbelievable. Alright, once we come across the top of this mountain, we're going to be setting up for our approach, so I'm going to start slowing down a little bit. And I might even throw out the speed brake. And this is the challenging part for me with this plane. So in the manual it says that it will fly by wire all the way down if you want it to. Even deploying the flaps is necessary, but I found that when you get about 100 to maybe 50 feet off the deck, it just like drops like a rock. Look at these things. How awesome would that be? They got some trails going around there too. So when you deploy the flaps, at least according to the manual, it will take it off of fly-by-wire, so we're going to try that, but it still comes screaming down. And this runway is paved, and it's about 6,000 feet long, but it's super skinny, so it's going to feel like we're going even faster, and trying to stay on it is a bit of a challenge. We'll get it down, no problem. I haven't crashed it yet, but it's a little bit nerve-wracking coming in there. Alright, so we need to get down to about 250. That's going to be our gear speed, so we'll do that. Man, I'm getting altitude sickness just thinking about walking around down there. That's amazing. So just a quick heads up, this is like the busiest time of the year in my day job, so I've got a lot going on this week and starting next, but of course we got a couple weeks off for Christmas, so we'll be banging out all kinds of cool content during that time. Still working on the Vancouver flight, so that's coming up. All that stuff is in the hopper. Alright, autopilot is off, and we're at gear speed, so we'll throw those bad boys out, and here's the runway right here. So I'm going to cut the throttle, and then we'll deploy the flaps once we get a little bit closer so it doesn't try to take care of itself, which for me so far has been somewhat problematic. And I've got a mapping issue with the landing lights, so if I turn them on, it's going to start clicking and trying to turn itself off, so we'll just assume that they can hear us coming. Look at all these little towns. Every one of them has a bullfighting ring, and the big town for this area is right over here, and I think that's there because of a big gold mine they have up here. But it's not an open pit mine, it's an underground mine, so you really can't see anything. Alright, let's get down. Let's get on down. So you can see our airspeed. I've got the throttle all the way off right now, still about 140, but if we nose up at all, it'll start slamming down pretty slow, so you got to keep an eye on that. The minimum approach speed is 125, so we want to try to stay above that. And we're really close to it right now, so let's go ahead and get the flaps out just so we get the extra lift. Well, we're not stalling yet, and we're below 125. Another part of the reason why I don't enjoy flying these jets as much as some of the other folks might is I don't have a flight stick. I do it with a yoke, but that will be fixed soon when I get my helicopter gear, so in a few weeks, maybe I'll enjoy them even more. Just feels a little bit weird flying these things with a standard yoke. I didn't get the side throttle, though. I just got the collective for the helicopter, so I'll still have to reach over to my Bravo to manipulate the throttle. Okay, we're coming in a little hot now, and we don't need to be doing that, so let's slow down some more. And you really got to ride the throttle for this thing. Look how skinny that runway is. Alright, so hang out for just a minute. Once we get on the ground, we'll pull over a little NavMap. I'll give you a quick tour of everything. And then we'll wrap her up. Yep, I'm going to call this must fly. This is just too cool to not at least take some kind of plane out here. And we're going real slow now. Can we make it to the ground? Our bullseye says we will. Alright, come on, gears, just stay connected. Well, we did it. We're on the ground. All right. Speed brake out. Brakes on. Yeah, so let me know. I mean, I'd like to fly this more. I just feel like I'm so inept at it. If anyone has flown it more or knows it better, or if you've flown it in real life, let me know some things that I might do better if you have any tips and pointers, especially using the hover feature. I'd like to get better at doing that without having the nose jerk up and down like that. All right, we'll just go ahead and stop right here because there doesn't seem to be anybody else coming in here, and I don't know if there's any taxiways anywhere, so we're probably just fine. Parking brake on. And let me shut her down here. Now let's turn our guy off. His hand's in the way. All right, that should do it. All right. Okay, take the centering off. I was just listening to that little warning. Hopefully she won't keep doing that. If she does, we'll just turn the battery off. All right, so here's where in the world we are. If you remember our Santiago, Chile flight, that was out in this region down here, and you can tell this whole area around the Andes is just super, super dry. And we're not too far from Nazca either. That's where that stuff was, and that big dune we landed on out there. And here's where our Bolivia flight was. So we've been around this area quite a bit. I don't know how I missed this, but I'm glad we found it. All right, so here's where we took off from. And again, if you like this area and you want to fly out here a lot, check out, it's on flightsim.to, 50% off the very nicely done payware add-on for this. I think it was about $6. And it's, I don't know how long the sale is going to last. So here you can see how close this town is, Arequipa, to this volcano. Ooh, it might be kind of neat to fly over the top of that, see what it looks like down in there. I didn't think to do that, but look how close these guys are here. I didn't measure that. Let's see how close these guys are. So 4 miles away, and you know, even if the flow went that way, they're going to have some stuff running down. They're going to be in trouble if that thing blows its top. All right, here's the big mine. And you can tell from little NavMap, I mean, it just looks flat, but that thing is deep, really deep. And that looked awesome. That was worth a trip just to see that thing, that big lake they got there. So we cruised out over here. Here's La Jolla. And you could, I mean, they got a couple rivers running out here, but I don't know how in the world. I mean, the population out here is a little bit smaller. Of course, they got their soccer field. No bullfighting rings, mind you. I'll show you where all those are. But just to water all that land, because it's all got to come from the rivers. It never rains out here. I don't know how they're doing it. And then here's the Mejas district. And if you noticed it out of our window, I forgot to point it out. There's a little square thing out here with a circle in it. That's where their VOR station is out here. No airport, but they got the VOR station. But look at the little river for this thing. This is the one I couldn't even measure the distance across. How in the world they are supporting a population like that off of this is completely beyond me. And this is the one that didn't start building out to the 80s, so maybe they've got some kind of futuristic technology that's keeping everybody watered out there. And here's a little dinosaur park. So if you look at this in the Google map, you can actually see all the little dinosaur statues out there, which is just beyond cool. And then here's all those houses and their big yards. Look at that. I mean, gosh, just to drive across the neighborhood, that's probably a 5-mile hike just to get to the other end of the neighborhood there. But it is what it is. Probably pretty cool if you like bullfighting and soccer. And then here's our valley that we came into here, and you can see everyone has just found every flat spot they could find to throw a farm on it. And I don't think we're getting any bullfighting stuff yet. Nope, nope. But we do have the soccer fields. That's good. Came on up here. Here is our big mountain, the only place that's probably giving water to most of this area. And you can see it's green up here where all the runoff is. But that's Corupuna, where they have some more sacrificed bodies up there. I wonder if they left them up there. And then here's that canyon. Canyon del Colca. And I put a mark on this because look at this. There's a tiny little town. I mean, there's nothing around here till you get to where we are and that one by the lake there. But look at this tiny little town in here. It's called Choco, or Choco. And of course, I mean, there might, what, maybe 150 people live down there. They got their soccer field, and then there's their bullfighting arena. And you know it's the bullfighting arena because they're circular, and they always have like a little pin on the sides. And all of them have that. I'll show you in just a second when we get to the other town. So here's the Valley of the Volcanoes, which just looked absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. And that lake there. Man, if I ever go to Peru, I'm coming out here. That's got to be just amazing. But look at how terraced this is here. They just flattened everything out to try to grow whatever they could. And there's their bullfighting pin, and they got one over here too. Look at that. That's probably a little reservoir to retain their drinking water or watering water. But look at that landscape. And it was just spot on from start to finish. Absolutely incredible. So then we came out here for our approach, and we got a couple more little towns with bullfighting arena, of course. And even the one down here has a little bullfighting arena. Where was that thing? Yeah, well, you can look at it yourself. Here's another one. Look at this. Look at that. I mean, I just love the fact that they take so much pride in their town. They even built like a little square there. What a great community they must be to live in, as long as your neighbors aren't jerks. And then here's the town of Orcopampa, which again, I think is because of the mining stuff is probably why that's out here. And they got their soccer field, and of course their bullfighting arena. So the mines, I'm guessing, are probably going into these spots here. Oh man, they even got something written on the mountain. I would take a flight out here, probably circle around and try to land the other way just to check that out. It would be worth doing it. So if you want to adjust the map a little bit, I bet it would be worth flying here to check that out. Well, here's some more mining out here too. But all of these are underground. None of them are open pit mines. So you won't be able to see much for mining other than this giant runoff pond, which probably also looks awesome. Yeah, dang it, I'm kind of wishing we would have flown out there, but no sense beleaguering it. You can go out there and check it out yourself. So that's it, guys. I'm going to do it. I'm going to call it a must-fly route. That is just too cool. Nothing else I've seen so far in the sim looks quite like that. Just absolutely awesome. And don't you dare keep, if you know of a spot like this, you're keeping a secret, shame, shame, shame on you. Let us know. We'll fly it together. It'll be absolutely awesome. Had a blast as always. Learned all kinds of cool things. Saw all kinds of amazing things. Can't wait to see y'all again in the skies. Later.